Our next speaker, Evie Tinkham, shares their journey of rediscovering their educational expectations.
For a lot of my life, I've been called smart by my parents, my teachers, and my friends. I was always just known as the smart kid. And this was further solidified when in the second grade, I was labeled as gifted. We sat down and we took a test, and for the rest of my academic career, that's what I was, gifted. And I like that word. It was special. It was almost like a superpower. And that being able to read well and do math meant that I was okay. And that being gifted was me being okay. Later that year, I was diagnosed with ADHD. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder is diagnosed in 1 of 9 children in America. It's known by its symptoms, and it's commonly understood that people with ADHD can have access to accommodations, things like 504 plans. But ADHD was different. It was still special, but I could tell in the way people reacted to it when I told them that it wasn't the same as being gifted. And so, what does gifted even mean? Well, the Ohio Department of Education defines it as a student who performs or shows potential to perform at a level of remarkably high achievement when compared to others of their age, experience, and environment. Did you catch that word? Performs. Schools treat giftedness like a performance and not like learning. And so, when I showed a love for learning instead of nurturing it, they decided to see how well I could keep up with others. And genuinely, no one told me it was performance. For me, it was my life. I thought that I had to be better and smarter and faster than my peers in order to really be anything. And so I kind of played myself into this cycle of burnout, and I was tired, and I just wasn't doing it. But I was able to play the part for a little bit of being gifted. I studied well, and I got good grades, and I pretended that I could actually pay attention in the classroom. But then school got harder, and classwork piled up, and expectations started to get really high, and classrooms just got too overwhelming. Okay, I was still gifted, but I wasn't okay. And then one day, everything changed. One of the wisest people I know came and told me something that I really needed to hear. It was a dark night. I was in my room. I'd been there for at least an hour, convincing myself that I needed to figure out how to finish this math problem all by myself. It was about logarithmic equations, and I just didn't get it when the teacher explained it that day. And I'd been at it for at least an hour at that point, and I just could not understand it. And then my mom walked in, and she saw me spiraling, and she told me something that any reasonable person would do, like go watch a video on how to do it, or maybe ask the teacher for more resources. And I snapped, and I yelled, and I said, "No, Mom, I should have already figured it out by myself by now." Because that's what it meant to be gifted. And she asked me a question that really just shattered my belief, and it was, "Evie, who told you had to figure it out by yourself?" And I thought, and I pondered, and I realized it was me. And I was holding myself to an expectation that, 1, I didn't have to hold myself to, and 2, was just unrealistic and unhealthy and unsustainable to achieve. And so I had to rethink how I thought about intelligence. And let me tell you, it's hard. But through my research, I found out that even psychologists don't really have an agreed upon definition of what intelligence is. They do agree a part of it, though, is learning, adapting, and growing. And to do that, I realized I would have to get a 504 plan. But before, I was so terrified that accepting the accommodations and the help would mean that I wasn't gifted and that I wasn't even smart. And that wasn't okay. And so I didn't understand why getting my 504 plan would be okay. But you kind of just have to do something, wait for it to fail, and then do a different thing. So that's what we did. I got a 504 plan and I got accommodations that I did need. I'm now able to walk out of class when I get overwhelmed. And I'm able to wear headphones so I don't get overstimulated in class. And I'm able to test in a separate area so I can better focus. And you know what? It did help. It was almost like it was made for people with ADHD. And for a while, I realized that I was just so stupid for not having this thing to help me. And then I had to remember, being intelligent is about learning. And I learned how to work with my brain and not against it. And it helped. I'm now able to put enough energy into school that I get the grades that I want, but I'm able to have enough left over to take care of myself. And then I had this thought. Why didn't I learn this? Why are we expecting gifted children to figure this out by themselves? Can't we take a couple seconds away from learning harder math and longer words and learn how to balance our ambitions with our well-being? Because really, it shouldn't be that hard. I shouldn't have had to dedicate a lot of my middle school and early high school life to being burnt out and tired and overstimulated. But I did, and I learned from it. And now I get to share my experience so others get to learn from it. And that is the beauty of intelligence. And so, now I stand here, and I had to rethink my entire view of intelligence. So now, it's not a competition, and it's not a performance, and it's not a race. It's a road trip. And it's not the destination, it's the journey. And really, it's about learning how to fix your tire when you hit a flat on the road, or what to do in a blizzard. It's about thinking of poetry when you see the most beautiful sunset, and getting lost in the middle of nowhere and talking to someone and learning a perspective you never could consider. It's about asking for help when your GPS is broken and knowing that not knowing is the first step. And so I leave you here today. And for today, I want us to rethink intelligence. I want us to have ideals that help us and not harm us. I want us to rethink what it means to be gifted and to shift it from a performance to being able to learn. And for today, most importantly, we should enjoy the ride. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.